I saw a show the other night and it was confusing. It wasn't bad, but it wasn't all it could be because they forgot one important principle that every writer, every performer needs to remember, and that is we have to train our audience. What does that mean? I'm so glad you asked. Hi, I'm Scott. You're watching Inside Musicals, the channel for all things musical theatre. You may have noticed I love getting geeky about theatre, and this is going to be one of those videos. So, thank you for joining me. Audiences are smart, and from event to event, the same audience behaves differently. But in sport, a football audience is vocal throughout the whole show. Game. In tennis, we're silent during gameplay and only vocal in between. At a rock concert, we shout, clap, sing. We even try to get the attention of the artist we've come to see, and it's encouraged. The warm-up act increases our anticipation and gets us into the mood for making some noise. Put your hands together for... You know the drill. But the symphony, so much as a cough while the orchestra's playing, elicits dark looks of disapproval. Or think about the Catholic Church. The regular audience knows what to say and when. But God help you if you talk while the guy in the frock is talking. But then at a gospel church, you're free to respond as the Spirit moves you. But then, even there are rules of engagement. The point is, audiences understand conventions, and it's our job as writers or performers to define those conventions, or they get confused. They don't know what role they're supposed to play. In theatre, we have another convention called the fourth wall. It's an imaginary barrier between us, the audience, and the stage. We can see into the world of the characters, but they can't see us. We understand that the actors are directing their performance towards us, so we applaud or laugh at appropriate places, but our relationship to the character is one of observer. We don't influence what happens on stage. We don't interact with the actors in the way we would, say, a rock star or a comedian or our favourite sports team. We understand context and we buy into it. We also understand nuance. In pantomime, for instance, we're given permission to boo the villain, to cheer the hero. Some characters do break that fourth wall for comic effect, and we're cued to respond in very specific ways. He's behind you! Oh, no you won't. Oh, yes I will. Whereas a cabaret show should never have the fourth wall. I mean, this is not a musical. They're not playing a character. They're playing themselves, or at least an on-stage version of themselves. And it's a direct conversation with the audience, much like a rock star or comedian. I mean, yes, it's mainly a one-sided conversation, unless you're a heckler. But they acknowledge that the audience is there. So in that context, that fourth wall would be a barrier to two-way communication. So coming back to that show that I saw, what made it so confusing? Well, it was a hybrid show, and they didn't define the conventions for the audience, what role they were supposed to play. On one hand, it's a rock concert. It's a 3,000-seat venue. It's a tribute show to music of the 60s as seen through the eyes of the Vietnam War, and the band is featured on the stage. On the other hand, it's like theatre because the singers are playing characters from the 60s, soldiers who went to war, family left behind. And in between the songs are these spoken word sections where they convey their experience of living through the war. But unlike theatre, they're directly addressing the audience, so there's no fourth wall. And here's the confusion. Is the audience an observer, like in theatre, or are they a participant, like at a rock concert? What is their relationship to the performer? Because at one point, people at the front of the theatre stood up to dance and sing along with the songs, but then security puts them back in their seats, which says, no, this is not a rock concert. But then the spoken word sections don't really function as drama. They're more monologue than scene. They're a chronology of events rather than an accumulation of stakes or character development. And while the songs are connected to these monologues thematically, they're not integrated like in a musical, where they arise as spontaneous personal expression of the characters. And yet the characters are singing the songs. So how does the audience make sense of all of this? I'll come back to that. The irony of the fourth wall is this barrier makes it easier for us to accept the make-believe of what's going on stage. We know it's not really happening, it's just being played out for us, but that distance makes it easier for us to accept that illusion. When the performers talk to us directly, breaking that fourth wall, it feels somehow more personal, and so it breaks that illusion. So when these actors in their 20s, who are too young for even their parents to have lived through the Vietnam War, talk emotionally to the audience in the first person about the trauma of their experience at war, it feels like a bald-faced lie. because I'm aware of the manipulation. Whereas if this were a fourth wall drama, I'd be slowly seduced into the evolution of the story. I'd be living it vicariously, empathising with the characters, and so I'm more likely to accept the artifice. This is not a criticism of the performers. This is entirely about how the show is conceived and directed. Because while the audience clearly wanted to enjoy the show, they were getting mixed messages. Add to that the reverence for the subject matter, their wariness of security curbing their enthusiasm. Their response was more muted than the performers deserved. They were only mildly vocal at the funnier moments and politely applauded the songs until the finale, when the performers dropped character, addressed the audience directly as their authentic selves. Put your hands together for the band, and the place erupted. So for the curtain call and the encore, there was an authentic vibe to the place because the audience wanted to cheer and sing along. And now they could because they'd been given permission. Now, if the cast had started the show that way, acknowledging the band, singing as themselves in their full rock glory, it could have been electric because these are some of the best rock musicians in Australia and some really outstanding voices. And then they could break away as narrators to tell the story of these characters in the third person. Now, in theatre, normally I would say show, don't tell. But given there's not enough substance to these stories to work as drama, short of rewriting the whole show, this would be the simplest solution to separate rock from theatre. And what they might lose in immediacy, they gain in clarity. And that's the thing, you have to establish these conventions early in the show so the audience is not left wondering what to do. It's kind of like going to a church wedding if you're not a churchgoer. Those audience participation bits are really confusing. And peace be with you. Yeah, so's your old man. And also with you. And you spend half your time thinking, when do I join in? What do I do next? Am I doing it right? Should I do it at all? Or is that just rude? Instead of just being in the moment, enjoying it. You know, in a musical, the opening number does more than just start the show, set the scene. It establishes the expectation for the show, the tone, the genre, the rules. So if you're promising a thriller, you better deliver some thrills. If it's a romantic comedy, there better be a love interest and some laughs, and they better come early in the show. In Book of Mormon, you know from the outset this is going to be an outrageous satirical comedy and you're going to laugh a lot till it hurts because they get you laughing straight away. Whereas Les Mis, the first scene tells you this is not going to be about laughs. It starts bleak, goes downhill from there. It's a harrowing, emotional story that says, you better get ready to cry. I mean, there's not one laugh for maybe the first hour, not till Master of the House. By then we're begging for it because we've already had tears. I love Sondheim's recollection of writing the opening number for A Funny Thing Happened on the Way to the Forum. I mean, it's a really strong show, but it just wasn't landing with the audience. It's a broad farce, but the original opening number, Invocation, while intellectually amusing, was too highbrow to prime the audience for the laugh-out-loud humour to follow. And so it didn't work. His second attempt, Lovers in the Air, is bright, breezy, charming, with witty wordplay, but the lightness of the song sets the wrong expectation for the lowness of the comedy. So the show still didn't work because it didn't deliver on the promise of that opening number. His third attempt, Comedy Tonight, is a list song. There's no real drama to it. It's like a warm-up act that just bluntly states what the audience is about to see. I mean, it's circus music, if circus had a baby with vaudeville. And these characters are clowns. But it gets the right kind of a laugh from the audience, and so it switches them on for the rest of the show. And so then the show worked. So now making it all about me and the musical that I'm writing that includes portions of pantomime, I need to teach my audience the conventions of pantomime early in the show so they're comfortable responding to those cues. But then I need to train them how to respond to the other parts of the show that aren't pantomime. And that's going to come down to story. So if I want to contrast the real life portions of the show with pantomime, I need to re-establish that fourth wall, recalibrate the behaviour of the audience for those scenes. But if the point of the story is that the characters' real lives start to echo the world of the pantomime, then maybe I need to bring some of those pantomime cues into those real life situations. So whether you're performing or writing a musical, cabaret, stand-up, a concert, how do those first few scenes, those first few songs signal the conventions for your audience? Have you ever been aware of training your audience? Leave me a comment. But for now, thank you so much for watching. I do appreciate it. I do love you. Now get out there and be brilliant.